I kind of got into the Seattle market. It's less than a year.
And you guys are already up and running with more than just one project.
We bought 3 houses, 3 rehabs, 3 basements, 4 daddies.
Wow. You have to travel. That's non-negotiable, right? We work so hard. You
Yeah.
have to take the breaks and because people say, "Oh, I want to travel when I retire." I'm like, "No, you want to travel now. You're still full of life and enjoy the journey. Don't just put it all off because who knows, there may not be a tomorrow." And it's the journey at the end of the day that you're, I would say, showcasing. You don't have to be the expert at everything, every single step. I think people really want the stories, the journey, but the journey is definitely the gold is in the details. And if you show the journey, you'll be inspiring a lot of people to take action. Because there's a lot of people with money that are not taking action.
Brace yourself for a wild ride into the unexpected. This ain't your typical success show. I'm here talking to real folks who've been through it all, skipping the fancy business talk for authentic stories. We're diving into childhood dreams, teenage escapades, and everything in between. No scripts, just the stories that truly mold success. Each episode takes you on a journey through those breakthrough moments that paved their way. No fluff, just genuine stories. So whether you're chasing dreams or just love a good story, buckle up for wisdom, laughs, and the unexpected. This is the Breakthrough Podcast, where success is a journey, not just some fancy destination. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button now and join our Breakthrough crew. I got some incredible stories to share, and you won't want to miss a single one. Hey everyone, I'm excited to bring on a fantastic guest, my buddy Israel Lopez. He's a loan officer, real estate investor, and someone who's been instrumental in helping me tackle some of my major projects in the Seattle market and beyond. We met through a mutual connection, and Israel's expertise in everything from ADU developments to creative financing has been a game changer for me. He's got this amazing ability to think strategically and solve problems, which has made him a go-to resource for the investors in the area. In this episode, Israel opens up about his journey from growing up in a family business to navigating the world of real estate lending. He shares his approach to structuring deals that reduce risk while boosting returns and even gives us a glimpse into the exciting opportunities coming to the Seattle market. This one's full of golden nuggets, practical tips, and a little humor to sprinkle in. I know you're going to take a ton away from it, so let's jump right in. All right, buddy. How are you?
Good, good. Show is live. Let's make it happen.
Let's do it. I was thinking of something. I was just going to the bathroom before we get going here because it's one of the things I go through every time I do an episode is I drink so much water because I go on a run, usually in the morning, and I need to drink water. And so then all of a sudden, about 45 minutes in to 50 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, to try to finish that last 10 minutes of the podcast. So
Hang
I
on
try to
tight.
go. Yeah. So to start off, this is interesting, and this wasn't planned, but we're closing today.
We are. We are. Literally in the next couple of hours, we'll have recording numbers.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was talking to Roman yesterday because we have a new partner on that Feeney project.
Yep.
And she's the designer, she's the designer that helped me with Glen Una, and now we've become friends. And we're doing a new project that we're starting in San Jose. We started a couple weeks ago, and we're basically taking over Roman's job when it comes to picking out floors, tiles, cabinets. Like we're like, hey, you just give us our budget, per the scope,
Yep.
itemized, and we'll take care of ordering everything. We'll have it, ready for you to go pick up. You pay for it so that we can still get it through the construction draw money. But he's like, dude, no problem. Like, if you want to take on all that and make my job easier so I don't have to pick out stuff for clients, like, have at it. So that's how we're going to run this one. But then I told them, I go, it hasn't even been a year. So I kind of got into the Seattle market. It's less than a year.
And you guys are already up and running with more than just one project.
We bought 3 houses, 3 rehabs, 3 basements, 4 daddies.
Wow.
And so
That's
I told him, "Are we getting out of hand here?" He's like, "You're in it now, man." There's no second guessing at this point. Like, and
no.
it's funny, because Michael, he got confused. We have a sign off today for 117th for the condo docs, right? And
Okay.
are putting the LLC, putting the dadu into the LLC, something like that, right? And so escrow was asking like, "Hey, I haven't heard from Michael." And Michael's like, "Hey, no, I got a sign off at 2 p.m. or 9 p.m. on Tuesday." And I'm like, "How's that even possible, dude? We're closing that day. That sounds odd." He got it confused with the other properties. Like, dude, I'm getting like, there's so
Oh,
many emails coming through because right now what we're going through is we have 3 projects. That means there's multiple surveys, multiple arborists. Everything's in threes. 3 condo attorney stuff. No, actually more than that. It's you got all the condo on the lot. So we're just getting things going, like it's just stacking on
yeah.
top. Even with an assistant, it's
At
you
some
know.
point, you might have to switch over to a project management software so you can keep track of everything, right?
So what do you know about that? Like, what type of project management software?
Everybody asks, right? Like, what's the best CRM? What's the best project management software? And it's honestly, there's no right answer. It's more, what are you already working and what will keep you organized so you don't miss certain steps? But I can tell you the most successful builders that I know have superintendents that follow a checklist, right? And that's what the project manager software is. And then it's funny enough that you're talking about the designer because the best product that I see coming from these superintendents or from these builders are guys that are using designers because let's face it, like the construction world is heavily male based, right? So when it comes to picking out finishes, for what it's worth, we would just go in there and paint everything white, but that's not the best product. So that's
Yeah.
where what differentiates, I would say, different builders at different
Mm-hmm.
phases in I would say maturity as far as their business goes. Sauna is one of the prominent ones that I
Mm-hmm.
hear about. Monday as
Yes.
well. Those are kind of the 2 that I hear about the most.
Yeah, we use Asana. God, it seems like, and we're always trying to. I mean, that's one thing when you get into investing or you're just scaling as an entrepreneur type of business is how do you put systems and processes in place
Yeah.
over time? Like, for example, on these projects, we have one assistant dedicated to Seattle, and we're putting together these build out lists of the soft costs. Like, okay, let's run through one whole project. Here's how much we spent, because then we're going to know exactly point A to B on the next one. And it's going to be, okay, we know we're going to have to pay the arborist, and we know we're going to have to pay the condo attorney. We know we're going to have to pay someone to decommission the oil tank, like here's the checklist. So
Yep.
right now we're in the middle of building those out. Like we're just working through there. And it's interesting because Michael, he's a W-2. So he's deep in tech. So he's getting bombarded by so many emails.
Yep. Yep.
And so now I've even had Raina go, "Hey, at the end of the week, you need to give him the key points of the week, like what went on, what to expect the following week, what things we have to look out for." Keep him and keep it very short and simple. Don't write paragraphs of stuff, like very bullet pointed. This is getting done. You got this. And that's not only going into like WhatsApp, it's also going into his calendar. Like the calendar is even built out for like draws. Like, hey,
That's
this
nice.
is when the money's going to come out. Like you just got to keep this so that you can, move from, one bank to the next. So it's a lot of moving parts for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
once you realize who's wearing what hat, then just let each person run within their own lane. You just check in
Yeah.
at the end of the week as far as like what is left to do, etc. And then sometimes that individual may have their own assistant as well, right? But if you guys have one main assistant that'll keep you guys accountable for your Seattle specific projects, I think that's also key because while there's a bunch of emails coming in and you have a W-2 or you have other projects in like California, for example, it can get overwhelming.
Yeah. It definitely, and even Michael says that, like I give him updates and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Well, I'm used to it because I've managed portfolios of properties out of state for a while now." So to me, it's just like, I'll paint a little like analogy here. I used to be a waiter when I was growing up, And you might be super busy, right? And you might have 10 tables, but you treat all those 10 tables as one. You work in a system.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do the same thing with real estate. Like there might be a lot of properties in there, but I just run through a very systemized approach of what's going on within these portfolios on a weekly basis. And then, you got to make your adjustments where you need to and follow through on things. But that takes time to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. I can
Else you
tell
feel
you.
like you're putting out fires all the time. So, hey,
Yeah,
when the last time I saw you, we were at Ann's thing. Did you tell me you were going on vacation or you were going somewhere? I forgot.
I'm going on vacation for Thanksgiving week, going to Paris and Barcelona. So that'll be exciting.
Ooh, have you ever been?
No, I hear you've been to Barcelona before and have some great stories.
Oh, did I tell you that when I saw you at Ann's?
Yeah, you did.
Did I? Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. But you're staying only in Barcelona?
So 3 to 4 days in each. So Paris and Barcelona.
Cool. Yeah, you're gonna have a good time. Do you know what the weather's like at that point?
It's
Is it cold?
winter. Oh yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
probably 50s, most likely.
Yeah.
50s,
But
60s.
not as many tourists.
Yeah, absolutely. Not as many
During-
tourists because it's cold. Summer just ended. But you just got back from Costa Rica. How was that?
I really like Costa Rica. Easy flight there. The thing about Costa Rica is it's hard to do it all. It's too spread out. So you have to choose, like, what do I want to do on this particular trip? Do I want to be by the coast or do I want to be in the rainforest?
Mm.
And you kind of have to figure out that type of direction. We've gone twice now. The first time we flew into San Jose and we kind of traveled south down to like little cities and stayed at a couple of them, 2 days per city. And then we ended up at a really cool off the grid treehouse, which was like the highlight of the trip. And then we jumped on like a smaller plane and flew back up to San Jose and then flew home. I really like it's jungly, tropical, feel safe, really good food, very similar climate to like Hawaii in its sense, like Kauai. It rains. It could rain and all of a sudden be sunny again. Super friendly people. The resorts so far that we've stayed out have been pretty amazing. This trip was in the rainforest and basically it was more of like we went on hikes. It was just hiking every single day. Like at the end, I think the last day we hiked 2 different parks and it was pouring rain. I did have a raincoat. I just didn't bring it because it's super hot. But we'd go through trekking through and it'd be super soaked in rain and, beautiful waterfalls. And this one is by a volcano and the water has kind of got this like teal blue color to it
Oh wow,
with hot springs. Yeah.
it's
Really
awesome.
cool. Yeah. It's really awesome. The food is amazing. I love the food. Great coffee.
They have pink pineapples down there, I think. Did you know that?
No, that's funny you bring that up. I heard someone talking about that and I wasn't catching on to what they were saying,
No, they
but
grow.
I didn't try any.
Dole grows pink pineapples, or they might buy them from the local farmers, but Costa Rica is one of the countries that has pink pineapples. And I know that because I actually bought one at the store up here in Seattle, and it said imported
Oh,
from
really?
Costa Rica. Yeah, and I bought it.
Interesting.
It was an expensive pineapple, but I was like, it's pink, why not?
Yeah, that's cool. Well, something I've learned this last trip, I kept seeing the word soda on these restaurants, like soda, soda, soda. And basically what that means, it's a family owned restaurant. And that's where you get the real authentic vibe of Costa Rican food. And it made sense because every time we went to Google Maps to like look at restaurants, all the ones that said soda had like a ton of reviews,
Oh wow.
like, oh, this is the best authentic food. So that was kind of a cool little thing. And my wife loves sloths, the little
Oh
animal sloths.
yeah, yeah.
And they're so cute. They just sit around the tree with this like smile and they don't do much of anything. But we went to the sloth sanctuary and
Oh
saw
wow.
them there. But our first trip, we were in Manuel and Antonio and we got a little canoe and we went to this little island and there was sloths just in the tree right at the beach eating flowers. We're taking videos and we didn't really realize that that's very rare
Oh
because they sit not at the very top of a tree, but kind of in the middle. And the reason they sit in the middle is one, they don't want to be too high up for predators, and they don't want to be too low for predators as well. So they ride in the middle of the tree. They come down just once in a while to go to the bathroom. Their metabolism is really slow because they only eat like leaves. That's it. So yeah, kind of a crazy animal. They just sit, just sit up in the tree with a smile.
Living their best life,
And
right?
living their best life. And their babies, when their baby's born, literally the baby's born, and the baby just latches on to the mom with these hooks, and just sits there, and they go, in different, angles, and the little baby just hangs on. It's crazy.
Oh,
So yeah, good trip. It was a little short, but sometimes we do that. We just get out of town, but it definitely, traveling's good.
oh yeah.
You got to
You
travel.
you have to travel. That's non-negotiable, right? We work so hard. You
Yeah.
have to take the breaks, and because people say, "Oh, I want to travel when I retire." I'm like, "No, you want to travel now. You're still full of life and enjoy the journey. Don't just put it all off because who knows, there may not be a tomorrow. So you got to make sure you enjoy every single day."
I agree with you. That is absolutely the truth. I think when I was there, Finney was coming to the close, right? Glen Una project is coming to a close. One of our Kansas City properties is, across the finish line. And I don't need a lot, but I went in the hot tub at where we stayed, and it was 10 minutes maybe I was in there, maybe 15. But 10 to 15 minutes of just reflection for me is a long time. And it was just good. Like, okay, cool. Like we got through a lot. And I don't know about you in 2023, but 2023 was fucking hard. It was fucking hard.
Yep.
It was a tough year, period. So, but none of us took the brakes off, and we just kept
Now we
doing our
just
best. You know what I
keep
mean?
moving forward.
Keep moving forward. And so, and everything that's gone on in Seattle, it's just good. It was like it was like a good moment of reflection, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, which was cool.
And putting out
So
fires from the beach is a lot more fun than putting them out from your office. So there's
that's true.
that.
That's true. Hey, where'd you grow up? Are you born and raised in Washington?
Yeah, born and raised in Washington. My grandfather immigrated from Mexico. Jeez, I don't remember when, like early 70s, I think. He actually landed in Los Angeles. He's always been an entrepreneur. That's where I would say we got our entrepreneur side from. Eventually migrated to Seattle, opened up a chain of Hispanic stores, grocery stores, and would sell boots to the local Hispanics up here in Seattle.
Hmm.
Him and his brother actually opened up a franchise of Mexican grocery stores.
Oh, cool.
And there was a third one that they opened up in Marysville, which is about an hour north of Seattle. He actually gifted that store to my mother, and that store was as old as I was right before I went to college, and she sold it off. But my entire childhood was non-existent because it was consumed by this Mexican grocery store. That's where I
Oh, wow.
lived. That's where I grew up. I did my homework there and then went back to work and then did it all over again the next day. Basically, it was you wake up, go to school, come back to the business, work until 9, 10, go home, and then you do it all over again. So that's where I learned a lot of my early negotiation skills and just how to problem solve. A lot of individuals that came through the door, who knows what they needed. Sometimes it was something as simple as, "Hey, I have these documents that I need help translating." And what my mom say? "Hey, this guy knows how to speak English, read and write. Go translate it." So she was like, "Hey, go help out my friend." I'm like, "You better be charging for this." But at the time when we were in the thick of it, I was like, "Oh, this is brutal. Lost my entire childhood being here." And I wanted nothing to do with entrepreneurship. But then now in hindsight, I wouldn't want it any other way. Because if it wasn't because of that, my work ethic probably would not be the same way. Probably wouldn't know how to speak Spanish as a result. I was doing
Hmm.
business in Spanish. I learned how to read and write as a result of the business. And
Yeah,
my younger siblings today, they're not as fluent as my two young, or basically the two that come after me, pretty fluent. They know how to read and write in Spanish, but the younger two are definitely don't. They don't know how to read and write in Spanish, so they can't negotiate. I have countless times where clients call me for a loan in Spanish. You have to be very careful about just like doing financial things in Spanish, but it definitely helps. to be able to resonate with individuals and speak the language. Not only that, but going to Mexico, it's a lot different when you know how to speak Spanish. They will still notice that you're not local, but it definitely, when you know how
It
to
helps.
speak the language, it helps.
Yeah.
Just being respectful, like anything else, it's a game changer, I would say.
So you learned a lot of your skill set from working at that grocery store, and that's a given. That's kind of like Gary V's story, somewhat.
The
He
wine,
worked at his dad's, I think, liquor store or something like that,
yeah,
from what I remember. And he kind of took over part of it and started helping him get it online and put a lot of time in basically through his childhood. So it's interesting that it kind of translates into what you do now. So besides you're a loan officer,
yep.
right? But then you're also an investor on top of that.
Yeah, I was actually a builder and contractor for a lot of the local Seattle investors 6 years ago. We're doing
Oh,
about
wow.
20
I didn't even
studs
know
out
that.
remodels and then about
Really?
2 to 3 ground up developments, specifically ADUs, when ADUs were just starting to sprout out of the ground in Seattle. And got burnt out. Getting guys to show up on time that are in the trades while trying to maintain a timeline and hit those targets was very difficult at scale. So then I became a real estate agent because I knew if there was one thing that I enjoyed the most from the contracting side was actually negotiating the deal and making it come to a close with the client. So I was like, all right, the next thing that's lowest hanging fruit is real estate sales. Did that, was very successful for a year, but also didn't really like that I would date clients for 90 days and then call it quits. I was in it for the long
Mm-hmm.
haul. So then I was like, all right, let's continue to build on my existing relationships on the contractor side, the existing relationships and kind of just contracts, negotiations within the real estate sales component, but let's take it a step further. So then I found myself in hard money lending and I haven't looked back ever since. My clients that were my clients on the contracting side became my clients on the lending side. And some of those names that I was working with earlier on are big names in the Seattle industry now, in the Seattle real estate space now that at the time I didn't know how lucky I was until now in hindsight. Like Jimmy Tang, who does a lot of ADU developments. He was one of my
Yeah.
early clients as a general contractor, and then Leica Devonta as well. So two movers and shakers in our industry that I had basically got very lucky because I could have had any other clients that weren't as invested in the real estate space as they are and have had tremendous growth, and we've been able to grow together. So I'd say definitely having that early experience as a contractor has made my life on the lending side a lot easier.
That makes total sense. It's interesting because I did tell you one thing in the beginning. Well, I guess let's back up to our little story in the very beginning when we first met. We might as well say it because it's funny.
Yeah.
When we first met, like you came highly recommended, but at first you were confusing me with some other guy,
Yes.
right? That was kind of dragging you on and just wasting your time. I guess that would really what it comes down to. So every time we would talk, you're kind of just like, dude, what have you done? I'm like, what do you mean? Why does he keep asking me how many deals I've done? I'm like, what do you mean? I've done way more than 8. Like, have you? We kept going back and forth, and then you finally figured out, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were a different person. But something I told you when I flew in, I like to just implement people in my team, and when they work, I want to get along with them. Be able to talk to them on the phone, and not have to worry about that component anymore. I'm out there trying to I'm trying to scale, develop, do all these other things, and I don't want to worry about the financing part. I want to just talk to Israel and figure out what the best direction is, get that support, and move on. Like, I don't want to have to like micromanage my loan officer or whoever. Like,
Yeah.
and I have before, Israel. I'll tell you right now, that project in Willow Glen, the Glen Una one, terrible. And I knew it was going to be terrible. And that's the funny thing. I knew it was going to be a bad transaction.
If you could say one thing that early on was like a yellow flag, what was that?
It was his personality with he really wasn't for the client. Let me give you a good example. I'll give you a good example. So we closed, right? And now we're getting ready to close on this project. And we needed payoff. And so I got the lender information and I needed some information. So we emailed him and had a couple questions about some fees, right? But didn't realize he had sold the loan off. like it wasn't through this company and it was in another. And we have it in an LLC, but my business partner bought it, right? She was the buyer. I'm on the LLC, but we do this all the time. We kind of, do you want to buy this one? You put it, so we're playing this game. And when we asked the questions, he came back and goes, hey, we sold the loan off. Please take us off this communication. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. We are going to take you off this communication forever. Because really what he should have said was, hey, we sold it off. Let me see if I can help you out. Let me get whatever, let me go back to your file. Let me see. Let me just do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
Instead, it was like, take us off this communication. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was about. Now I remember what it was about. It was a question about lien waivers because we're getting ready to close. And one of the things escrow wanted was some type of lien waiver document.
Yeah.
So that's why I went back to him. Like, oh, okay, it's got to be through this company because they're the ones that we went through them to fund the construction part. So I'm like thinking that there's some way they're going to be the ones that help with this lien waiver form, which I know what the form was. We filled it out every time we did a draw, right? And to the very end, to so that no one goes back. There's no contractor coming out after the fact. And he couldn't, he was just like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And I'm like, sent that email. I went straight to my phone, deleted the contact. We're done. Like, that's it.
Wow.
Simple.
It's, different loan officers have different setups. The one thing that I can tell you, one of the worst things that you can lose is control as a loan officer. And you can either broker your deals out or you can be the direct originator. And that distinction alone can mean your experience is completely different, night and day. Because a broker will go ahead and originate the loan, set you up with the lender, but they lose control over any visibility into the loan, processing where they're at, valuations, where the valuation is at. And then even on the servicing side, once you're making payments, visibility into payments, why payments are not going through, why ACHs are failing. But when you're working with a direct originator, anytime you can, you should. Now, granted, brokers have a place in kind of the ecosystem. Very difficult deals. Brokers are great because they have many different outlets. But if you have a vanilla deal that doesn't take you to get super creative, it's just a purchase and maybe a renovation component. That's pretty vanilla. Having the ability to be a direct originator gives you visibility into everything and full control to be able to just pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got this situation for my client. These are the issues. How can we solve it? Or, hey, can you give me clarity into what's going on? And I think that may have been what you experienced, where even direct originators will sell loans off, but they, depending on how their setup is, they will still have access to anything going on with servicing. That's exactly what we've set up, where we're not willing to give away servicing. We still need access to everything because we know from application intake to the loan is sold, basically the loan is paid off by the client. If you lose any control throughout that process, that directly impacts your experience and therefore your ability to come back.
Yeah, and a lot of it too was, you brought up something here. So creative financing, right? It's big with hard money and just development, right? We're always trying to, we got things that come up, and this is why we get hard money, because we get creative and we want to bounce something off you. Like, hey, I'm thinking about, we're trying to structure this way, can we do this? There's a lot of back and forth. He was getting upset that he's like, hey, we need to close escrow on this transaction. I'm like, no, I was able to negotiate with the seller that we're going to close escrow once we get permits in hand. So we've done an addendum to the contract, and we're going to get permits, and then we're going to close escrow concurrently. He was so upset about that. And I'm like, dude, what do you mean? I'm saving $60,000.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what we're doing. You're going to sit back and you'll get paid at some point. But he was just, instead of yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Contact me close to about a month, and we'll just kind of float things along. I'll keep your documents updated. We'll keep, you know what I mean? That's how the team plays. Where you're yeah. This is where we're going to start communicating again. You know what I mean? You keep me posted on when, where you are in the permit process. And yeah, that's a good game plan. That wasn't what he said. So I was so pissed.
Yeah, I can tell you
But
that
I
is
just had
one
to
of
get it
the
done, dude.
that's one of the secrets. If you can structure every single one of your new construction deals that way, that is how you save hundreds of thousands of dollars on holding costs.
Yeah.
That is
Yes. I
how
mean,
most big builders up here, they'll do that. They'll lock up properties with the 12 or 18-month close, give non-refundable earnest money, and then close on permits or sell.
yes.
That because the thing that I think is important to note is that construction financing typically is held up by, do you have plans and permits? Especially if it's infill development where there's a beat up property, then you can close early if you absolutely need to, where the seller needs to get cashed out. But if you have raw land, let's talk about that. Raw land financing is hard because most banks don't finance it, and those who do require you to put 50% down. So that's why builders will close on permits because their financing is a lot easier. So anybody that can do that, I'd say hands down. That's a golden nugget that people should use more often.
Yes. And so you could see why I was upset.
Hmm.
Like he pushing me to, I'm like, you're basically costing me money. Like you're not on the same wavelength here. So, anyways, live and learn. So that is a thing. And it really comes down to when you become a real estate investor, how you figure out your team is I say this over and over and over again. And I think you brought this up when we were talking to Alicia. I'm basically mentoring her, right? This is a partnership, but it's a mentorship too. And when people are getting mentored, they see a different direction because the person that's mentoring them is navigated through all the bad shit, right? And understands how to put a team together better because they've learned over time. And you still get burned here and there. You still get burned from your contractor, your handyman, your property manager, your tenant. It still happens. It doesn't matter. You can get the best you can. But the point is, and you brought this up, and when we were talking, you told her like, "Hey, you guys got a great team around you already. Like we got you, we got Ian, we got good contract. You know what I mean? Like there's good, solid team, and that really you have to have that because one bad apple can take down the whole scenario.
You can always swap out pieces, right?
Sure.
Depending on the project and scope, you bring in different experts. Right now, you
Yeah.
guys are working on ADU projects in Seattle. Tomorrow, you guys may be working on a skyscraper. Then I will be referring you out, but I'm still you're
Yeah.
putting that team together, and it's depending on how you're pivoting, what deals come up, etc. That at the end of the day, it still takes a village to make a deal work, and
Yes.
most real estate investors don't actually know what they're doing, to be honest with you. The one thing that they do know how to do
Mm-hmm.
well is put together a team and figure things out on the spot. That's all it is.
That is such a great point because I bring this up to people. I go, look, man, half the time I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out. Like that's the key. Like move forward, figure it out, take in information. Look what I brought up to you. Speaking of different things, scenarios, Feeney in the beginning, we thought it was zoned differently, right? And next thing you know, we're talking about
Townhouses.
building an apartment
Yep.
complex. For 1 hour, I'm like, oh no. And you're telling me stuff. I'm like, okay, should I do this? Is this possible? Is this going to ruin me? Is this going to be a financial, mistake? Like, all those things come through. Well, okay. And then Lisa's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, we ask a lot of questions. We call a lot of people.
I think
That's how
at the time, I think I
yeah.
told you, if everything else fails, will you still make money? And I think the answer was, yeah, you'll
Yes.
probably make 100,000. I was like, you make $100,000 to learn development project. I was like, that's a really good day. And I was like,
Yes. Yeah, that was a good point. That's what sealed it.
and I was like, hey, if you can fathom the worst possible scenario, and your worst scenario is actually you ending up in the green. This is a really good deal because you have multiple exit strategies. So I think that is key as well, depending on what you have in front of you, looking at it from different angles to make sure that if things do go sideways, you can pivot and you can get out of it. I think that your worst possible scenario
Yes.
was you go through, you buy it, you get permits, and then you sell it off to a builder. You basically flip the development. So
Right.
that's what we were talking about, and that is a pretty safe play.
Yes, and that's turned out on 117th was the same way, where there was a builder that wanted to spend $140,000 more than us. I'm not telling that story again because I've told it a couple times on podcasts, but that one was a good play. This one we got it for 565 and it appraised for
I
625,
believe so. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
625
Yeah, 625, and then ARV after repair value once we complete it of 925.
for the main house.
So that one we're doing good
Yeah.
on. Like,
Really good.
so really, I think what I'm going to do a year from now, I think it's going to be good because I'm going to start making more content on this, what's going on sale. Honestly, I haven't yet. I've made some, but I haven't really gotten into the technical part of it. And part of the reason why I'm like, okay, I'm not an expert yet, so I shouldn't be telling people what I'm doing or how I'm doing it because I'm probably wrong. But everyone's like wants to know like the direction. Like, I guess I could make contact just saying, hey, look, yeah, when you first look at a project, you want to make sure that the lot doesn't have a ton of trees, or oil tank that could be an issue down the road financially. There's all kinds of different moves. Yeah, it's been pretty damn overwhelming in a good way too.
And it's the journey at the end of the day that you're, I would say, showcasing. You don't have to be the expert at everything, every single step. I think people really want the stories, the journey. What are the
Yeah.
difficulties that you're going through, and how did you overcome whatever it is that it's in front of you? I think people can learn a lot from that, where you don't need to be
Yes.
completed, but the journey is definitely the gold is in the details. And if you show the journey, you'll be inspiring a lot of people to take action. Because there's a lot of people with money that are not taking action.
True. True. And that's a big part of it. I think I got was to come back a year from now and walk through all those projects and like where they turned out financially, all the, whatever, paint that big picture. This is gonna say a lot.
And there,
Were we right? Were we wrong? Did these numbers make sense? A lot of questions, some of the what if questions I have on all of this, and maybe you can shed some light is, when you condoize these houses, so the single family turns into a
yeah,
condo,
yeah,
correct? What does that change on? And why I bring that up is the Glenuna project I did here in San Jose. We did an additional house. We took up a lot of the backyard. It still had a beautiful deck. It had grass, had a fire pit area, but it wasn't a huge backyard. And that was a sticking point to some buyers. They're like, oh, the backyard's small. From what I'm seeing is they just want space to, have a place to sit. So, less is more because they got the great outdoors. Beach to sound. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Or they got downtowns and places, parks and all that. It's a different mindset. I could be off on that, but I'm curious to see how the devaluing of the splits affects the main house on how we sell them.
so I think
That's my biggest thing right now.
the Finney project, for example, where you're finishing out, so your exposure to the amount of value decrease as a result of quote unquote removing a backyard and building up a second unit is mitigated when there's a decent amount of value add on the existing. Meaning, are you finishing an
Right.
attic? Are you finishing a basement? Are you taking a 1,500 square foot house and converting it into a 2,500 square foot house by finishing unfinished areas? The answer is yes. I can tell you the value is going to naturally go up because you've got a much more functional space that's ultimately increased in livable square footage. That mitigates your risk.
Sure. Yeah.
If you are buying a 1,500 square foot home, that's, yeah, you're doing some touch up here and there, but you're not really adding additional square footage, then you're a little bit more exposed. In those situations,
Right.
I'm seeing anywhere between, on average, 50 grand, and a 50 grand hit on the main house on a decrease. I have
Mm-hmm.
seen a few with $100,000 hits, The goal there is though that your ADU, the second unit that you're building, is that you're building it at 50 cents of retail value. So a lot of times the back of the napkin numbers are if you're building for 350, it should be worth 700. And that's pretty common in Seattle, where you can absorb some losses on the main house and make it up on the back. The margins on DADU projects in Seattle have been getting compressed over the last year because everybody's looking for ADU projects. Therefore, people are willing to pay
Right.
more to get into these projects. That's what I will say. Margins have been getting compressed, but there's still deals out there. The best deals that I am seeing are off market. A lot of the on market stuff is definitely getting bid up super expensive, but there's still at the end of the day one winner, somebody that locks up that property. Maybe a little bit more expensive than what they should have paid, but there's still a lot of meat on the bone, and that's why people are willing to pay more.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think we got pretty lucky on the three that we got. I don't know that they even they we just locked it up in 24 hours, which was a little rare, and I think that was that agent's, you know, not drag it out a little bit and set an offer date. They probably could have made a lot more. But that in that 117th, and here's another interesting thing about working with you is you're like putting out pre-approvals for like every deal that we're looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
Like all the builders and the investors through Springboard. Looking at these deals too, which is intriguing.
All the numbers for these ADU projects are
You're
very similar. Like I can
yeah,
tell you,
give or
yeah,
take.
anybody that says, "Hey, I've got a single family residence that we need to do some value add and then build an ADU." In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is a $1.2 million deal because that is literally every single ADU project is a $1.2 million deal on average. And then my team's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Because the numbers are all the same. It's just different address, or sometimes we're expanding the main house and adding a little bit more on the renovations, but it's the same thing." In Seattle, that's been really key. The interesting component of Seattle and the greater Washington area is that July 2025, we're going to be able to do what Seattle and Kirkland have allowed statewide. So it is a gold mine. It's going to be the wild, wild west, and there's going to be people that are going to lose money, and there's going to be people that are going to make a lot of money. The reason why I'm saying that there's going to be people that are going to lose money is because just because you can build an ADU doesn't mean you should. The costs are going to be relatively this,
What do you mean?
and let me go into that. The costs are going to be relatively the
Yeah.
same, regardless if you're an hour north or south of Seattle, but the location is different, meaning the ARV, what these properties will command on the exit side, is going to be a lot different in
Mm-hmm.
core Seattle versus an hour north, where the average price points go from for an ADU for 700,000 versus now 500,000. So if you go over budget, you're all in
Right.
at 450, and now you're selling for 500. You're not making any money on those deals. That's what I'm saying. Just because you can build an ADU and the state's coming down with this new legislation to allow us to build ADUs and condoize, doesn't mean you should. You still need to run your numbers at the end of the day to make sure that there's margin on the deal. So that is the one thing. The other thing that we're starting to hear in Seattle is that the maximum square footage is might go from 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. So that will be
Right.
a game changer as well.
Three
Yeah.
two and a 3-2. Yes, and that's why we're land banking the 125th project for the future.
Yeah.
And that one you didn't help us with, but that one we bought it cash, and we're in planning for Dadu number 1. We built out the main house, the basement, and the upper unit, so to speak. But then we did the condo map and separated into threes. But then we decided we're instead of selling the main house, we're keeping it now because just in case there's something that goes on in the planning with like the lot line that we can control changing
Yeah.
it because we still own the main house.
Exciting.
So that was an interesting little component to it, you know. But
Yeah. Right now, you
yeah,
have a lot of people buying oversized lots. They're just buying. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. but I'm buying it. It's, especially if it's like in a core area where there is no more land, because there might be a world where we're able to put two 1,500 square foot ADUs, basically a duplex. And in Seattle, each one of those things, 1,500, you can reach $1 million price point really quick if it's in the right location. But the thing that excites me the most about ADUs, I know we're diving deep into the numbers and getting into the details, but just stepping back, the thing that's made ADUs so successful is that Seattle is confined by land, by water. There's nowhere to go but vertical. So then
True.
you're left with your average price point for someone wanting to buy a house from 1.5 to 2 million really quickly. So now you're bringing 1,000 square foot fee simple structure, detached. It's not a condo. It's a detached structure that's 1,000 square feet, typically two beds, two baths. And now you're bringing it to market anywhere between 600 to 800,000 on average, depending on where you're located. And you're providing inventory that's now affordable, new construction, and that stuff sells really quickly. So you're providing it at the end of the day housing, which is what the state wants, is why it's making it easier for us. Did you ever wonder why condoizing isn't handled at the city level?
No, I never even thought
So
about it.
condoizing, if it were to be handled at the city level, which is basically, hey, I've got a house, I'm gonna create an HOA, and now I've got two separate tax ID numbers, so I can build the ADU. But the reason why the city has quote unquote delegated that out to attorneys is they don't have the staff or the overhead to do that process. So like, how do we add
It'd be
housing
too.
without putting strain within our own operations? So they just ship that off to attorneys, and now we're cranking. And other cities are looking at Seattle to mirror that model to basically bring more inventory. San Jose, for example, they had their first ADU that was sold separately not too long ago. So a lot of cities are following suit.
Yeah, and it's that condo attorney part of it is interesting because as the owner, choosing the name of you're doing, you can add certain things into the CC&Rs. Like there's like things you can add, and I'm like, wait, whoa, I'm like building out an HOA here. This is kind of crazy. She's like, I can just choose a name for you. I'm like, all right, yeah, go ahead and do that. You know, and then everything was, she would ask questions. I've had a couple of meetings, and I'm going to have her on my podcast too now because it was intriguing. Um, she'd ask a question, and I would come back and say, "What are other people
Yeah.
doing?" And then just getting the advice, and then I'd run it by Ian. How are you handling this
Yeah.
part? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? I don't want to make a mistake, but I'm just trying to get feedback on it. It's true, Seattle and the geographically with houses and how it is. The ADUs, DADUs all make a lot of sense there. The way that these houses sit. I've said this a few times on the podcast, but San Jose, yes, has San Jose, Santa Monica, definitely moored with you wise an ADU, but the neighborhoods are different. Israel,
Not as dense.
I've said this before. I talked to Ian about this. I brought it up to Ian. It was the funniest thing when I brought it up to Ian, like the first day we met and we were looking at properties, and I'm like, oh, it's just different. Than he's like, that's some limiting beliefs there. I'm like, shit, is it limiting beliefs? I got to deep dive this. I'm like, but then more people like Alicia and just other people say, yeah, it's we just have different types of lots, and they're not as private. Meaning, you might have lots is 10,000, but you're parking in front of either two of the neighbors. You're gonna enter to get to the ADU from the side gate, right, or the right fence. It's not going to be that private whatsoever. Where even with your most in Seattle, even the neighborhoods where there's no alley access, let's say, you have the house, right next to it is, let's say, the carport, right? And then the left is the driveway, right? Well, they'll just pull that driveway all the way to the very back corner of the lot, build the dadu in that corner, re-fence it off, give that front a little bit, or give the dadu in the back its private front area and the side, right? It just fits right. Where I'm trying to like sad trying to. I mean, is there options? Is there lots here? I see. It seems like there's more in Southern California,
Mm.
and I'm sure there's more places. I keep hearing about like Fresno and maybe Sacramento. It really comes down to lots, how you can lay it out. I just know parts of San Jose just not going to work.
And
You could have it back
there's
there.
also
I
infill,
don't know.
right? You can get some off-market inventory that's completely beat up. You come in and scrape the whole thing and redesign it to your business model. So that there's that component as well.
Yes, definitely. But our price points are crazy too, Israel. They're insane. Fixers are 1.4.
Yeah, you still need to run the numbers because while it may not make
Yeah.
sense to basically buy and build to rent, basically buy, build it, and then keep it, it may make sense
Mm-hmm.
to build and sell, right? That's kind of the friction point
Yeah.
between Kirkland, which is east of Seattle, versus Seattle. Kirkland is a much more expensive price point. 1.2 to 1.5 is pretty standard. That's like your entry point. The reason why builders aren't keeping them is because the rents are very similar to Seattle. 3,500 to 4,000 for a 2,232, where the price points to buy the real estate is basically in half, basically 550 to 800, pretty standard to get in the Seattle area. Whereas in Kirkland, it's 1.2 to 1.5, similar to what you're describing, where a lot of the builders aren't keeping them because the rents are the same. So if you're truly trying to build these things to keep them for your portfolio, there's another market that makes sense. And I wonder if you guys have something similar like that in California.
Yeah, I think that's something we're definitely I'm constantly looking, but that one that just is my no-brainer thought process, just because I'm concerned about San Jose and how they're going to approach it and what kind of delays am I going to have on all
Yeah.
avenues. What else have you been doing? What have you been up to besides work?
Outside of work, I like to do 2 to 3 projects a year, mainly townhome developments or ADU developments. And my model is I just want to keep it simple because when I was doing 2 to 3 different things, basically 2 to 3 different businesses at once, I realized that I was just stretching myself too thin. So for the in personal investment side of things, mainly doing new construction, I like it. It's predictable. I'm able to pull from my past experience and keep moving forward. So I've got a business partner. We do 2 to 3 job sites a year. He does more projects, but that allows me to stay sane and still play the game. It's kind of like how I like to think
Stay
about
sane.
it. Anything
That's a
above
perfect way to say it.
anything above
Stay
that,
sane to play the game. That's a great quote.
anything above three is just it gets chaotic. So that's where I 2 to 3 and 2 to 3 job sites. It can be multi-units. At the end of the day, I think about it as one big box. You can chop it up however you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like what I do outside of work. Outside of that, just traveling. Trying to make sure that I'm traveling at least 4 times a year, once a quarter, to keep the engine going.
Totally. I'm right there with you on that, man. I think when we brought that up, I'm like, okay, cool. I always bring that up to people. Do you travel? What do you do? And the the ones that say they don't, or they just hear, I'm like, you got to get out there. Whether it's just 2 hours away from where you live and you're going into the forest or to a lake, whatever it is, you got to kind of recalibrate.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know.
I think
You,
that's key.
well, I appreciate you jumping on today. And I think it's funny that the day of our closing. So you did bring up something just now. You said more than three can be chaotic. So if I call you in like a month or so and say I have something else, you might have to talk me off the ledge of doing it because I'm deep in it.
Well, you're doing it full time and you have a team. I have a team as well, but I just find that I enjoy the lending component more. So I try to focus my time on what I enjoy the most. And so the lending is more of my active income. The investing is the build outs are kind of like my midterm income where I could build and get out within a year, and then I still hold some of them. So we're still growing wealth long term. So that's kind of like three buckets, right? Kind of like your fast cash, your medium term cash, and then your long term wealth. By keeping some of these, that's kind of how I focus the three. But you have to have a cash cow going to play the real estate game. So that's where the lending component comes
Mhm.
in, and I enjoy it the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah. You got to have a couple. I was just talking to one of my other, who you've not met, but she's going to be entering our other LLC will be coming into Seattle. And I've told her this, like, we always have to have three different incomes that are kind of generating through it, because we're not going to get rich off $250 a month on, a rental property in Kansas City. It's just whatever, like development side is a whole different ball game on that. And there's other avenues too. And you kind of have to work them together. It takes time, because else you start to run out of cash.
Yeah, yeah.
Or different things happen, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm going to be out there next week.
Yeah.
We should get together. Do you still talk to Jimmy?
Jimmy Ting, yeah. We can get
Yeah.
together.
We should get together and we should get lunch or dinner.
Let's make it happen.
That'd be cool. Where do you live from, like, North Seattle? Like, how far are you away?
I
Where do you live?
live in SeaTac, which is 5 minutes away from the airport. So I'm
Okay.
probably 20 minutes away from downtown Seattle. Very, very central.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we should get together.
Let's
Go
make
have
it
dinner.
happen. When are you going to be in town?
Next Tuesday?
Tuesday through like Thursday or something like that?
Yeah. This one we got to keep these trips short, a couple days, because they're starting to add up financially. But we kind of need to this year to kind of keep things moving in the right direction. But yeah, a couple days.
Let's make it happen. Probably Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll shoot you a text and we'll coordinate.
Cool. Where can the audience find you?
If you want to reach out to me directly for any loans, you can call or text me 425-346-3348. And then if you want to keep up with what I'm doing day to day, I've got to try to put out more content on social media. You can find me on Instagram on Israel_Lopez_exhibit. So yeah, more than happy to connect with everybody.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll put it all in the show notes. And it's been good. Like lately, this last one, I'm like, oh, cool. I get to add you to the Finney story and like start going, here's my lender. Like, now you got this person. So yeah, it's been cool. And I appreciate you with all your help, and helping me think out of the box, and yeah, you get it done. That I have to say, like, you passed my test. Like, I was like, okay. And this one too, because you could have closed. We could have closed this one earlier, but I was going to Costa Rica. So you kind of was like, I don't think so. And then you came back like, yeah, we got it done. I'm like, oh shit, he's ready to go. So that's impressive too. So now I know your secret. If I really need that favor happen, you can get it done.
I like
on a shorter timeline.
Under promise and over deliver.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. And that's good, because my good friend, who's my lender here in San Jose, he's the same way. Like, he plays that really well. Like, he'll kind of downplay it and then knock it out of the park. So I appreciate that. So.
I appreciate you, and just the friendship, being able to build a relationship with you has been incredible. And thank you for having me on. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on, dude. Well, I guess let's just end it now, and I'll be hearing from you in probably an hour or so with the closing of Finney.
Let's make it happen.
All right, buddy. Have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning into our show, where we hope you found inspiration and gained valuable insights. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay updated on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with others who might benefit from it. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more candid conversations and breakthrough moments in the future. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas and strategies.